This is the tactical briefing room. Tonight's system is not a warship. It is a shipping pattern. At first glance, the Strait of Hormuz looks like a crowded maritime choke point: tankers, patrol craft, fishing traffic, naval escorts, commercial lanes, and constant surveillance. But the real tactical problem is not the number of ships. It is the ability of a sanctioned cargo to move through a legitimate traffic pattern while trying to look like normal commerce. That is the ghost fleet problem. A ghost tanker does not need to disappear forever. It only needs to become uncertain at the right moments. It may change flag, name, declared owner, technical manager, insurer, or cargo paperwork. It may repaint a hull, alter markings, move through shell companies, or create gaps between the physical voyage and the commercial story attached to it. AIS may appear normal for days, then vanish near a transfer window, then resume after the cargo story has become harder to reconstruct. The tactical effect is not invisibility. It is ambiguity with commercial depth behind it. The traditional interdiction model sounds simple. Identify the ship, identify the cargo, identify the violation, then act. The modern shadow fleet problem breaks that chain. Vessel identity can be unstable. Beneficial ownership can be opaque. Cargo can be blended, relabeled, or shifted through ship-to-ship transfers. The AIS picture can be incomplete or manipulated. The documents can tell one story while the route, timing, and counterparties suggest another. That creates a detection problem with 5 linked layers. Layer 1 is AIS. Maritime picture makers want the transponder feed because it gives identity, position, speed, course, and timing. But AIS was designed for safety, not for sanctions enforcement under deception pressure. A dark gap, impossible movement, duplicated identity, or implausible position history does not prove guilt. It does create a risk object that has to be correlated with other evidence fast enough to matter. Layer 2 is behavior. A commercial tanker voyage has rhythm, departure, transit lane, anchorage, speed profile, destination logic, port sequence. A suspicious voyage often breaks that rhythm. It may loiter outside expected commercial patterns. It may slow near another tanker away from normal port logic. It may disappear near transfer zone, then reappear with timing or destination data that does not fit the declared voyage. Layer 3 is imagery. SAR satellites can see through darkness and cloud. Optical satellites can confirm hull form, wake, deck outline, and vessel proximity when conditions cooperate. One image rarely proves the case by itself. The value comes from correlation. AIS instability, vessel proximity, route discontinuity, and later cargo or ownership anomalies appearing in the same timeline. Layer 4 is the business layer. Insurance chains, classification status, port calls, charter arrangements, financing routes, beneficial ownership, flag changes, and broker patterns create a second map underneath the water picture. A ship can hide part of its voyage, but it still tends to leave administrative pressure marks. Repeated renaming, thin insurance, aging hulls, unusual trades, and complex ownership layers are often less dramatic than satellite imagery, but they are frequently what makes the intelligence picture actionable. Layer 5 is enforcement. This is where analysis leaves the dashboard and enters the crisis space. Boarding teams, sanctions designations, seizures, warning shots, close approaches, drones, mines, merchant crews, insurers, and political signaling all enter the same narrow geography. If the case is weak, action can trigger a diplomatic or military incident. If the case is strong but slow, the cargo may already be blended, sold, or moved onward through another node. The Strait of Hormuz makes every layer more dangerous because the geography compresses time. Oil traffic, Iranian forces, U.S. and partner patrols, regional escorts, drones, and commercial shipping occupy the same constrained operating space. In open ocean, a suspicious track may buy time for analysis. In Hormuz, the decision window is shorter and the escalation stakes are higher. The visual model is simple. On screen, a normal AIS track in green. Then the track drops out. A SAR frame appears. 2 hulls are side by side outside the expected traffic rhythm. One later reappears, attached to a cleaner commercial explanation. The system does not declare guilt. It builds a risk stack. That distinction matters. A competent fusion center does not treat any single signal as final. It builds a chain: identity instability, route anomaly, proximity event, port behavior, ownership opacity, insurance irregularity, financial context, and external intelligence. The more independent layers align, the more defensible the assessment. The fewer that align, the greater the risk of overreaction. That is why ghost fleets are difficult to counter. They do not defeat surveillance by disappearing completely. They defeat surveillance by forcing the observer to spend time proving what happened while the cargo network keeps moving. The ships themselves may be old, slow, poorly insured, and commercially unattractive. That is not the core advantage. The advantage is that an expendable hull can function as one temporary node inside a larger sanctions evasion architecture. The cargo moves through a network of brokers, shell companies, flags, insurers, ports, and counterparties that distribute risk and delay attribution. The escalation paths are also technical. A misidentified tanker can trigger a diplomatic incident. A real sanctions runner can receive escort or harassment support from fast boats. A seizure can provoke reciprocal action. A mine scare can shock insurers in freight markets. A drone strike or boarding attempt can move the problem from sanctions enforcement into open military signaling. Public evidence may exist, but only if the analysis is strong enough to survive scrutiny. The key vulnerability is not one tanker. It is fragmentation between the people holding the clues. If port authorities, customs services, insurers, navies, satellite providers, financial investigators, and data firms share the right signals quickly, the ghost fleet loses room to maneuver. If those systems stay disconnected, the network exploits the delay. By the time the pattern is clear, the trade has already outrun the enforcement cycle. So the real question is not whether a single tanker can vanish. The question is whether a sanctions network can keep creating just enough uncertainty to make enforcement slower than trade. That is the ghost fleet of Hormuz. Not invisible. Expensive to prove and dangerous to judge too late or too early.